when those big doors closed behind me, they were like the crack of doom. It was a terrible place. It was a real hell prison.
Tom Jones, unemployed miner from North Wales, member of the International Brigade, wounded and taken prisoner September 1938. In jail in Bilbao, he faces his fascist interrogator.
He said, what have you got to say for yourself? Why did you come here? Oh, I said, I came to fight for democracy. Democracy, he said? That's a great pile of shit, he said, you know. Of course, I hadn't smelt fascism anyhow. But I didn't answer back. I just stood there to attention as well as I could. And after I'd had another bath in a kind of a pig barrel with disinfectant in it, everybody had to go through that. He had a look at my arm. He said, you're going to lose your right arm. And anyway, he said, what was your job before you came to Spain? I was a coal miner. He said, why didn't you tell me? I said, you didn't ask. Oh, I got a tremendous regard for coal miners. I fought against the Asturian miners in the north, he said. And my God, did they fight. And whatever their views are on politics, he said, they're brave people.
Nearly 2 years before, bound for Spain, Tom Jones had told his parents he was going to Colwyn Bay for the weekend. Now they were getting letters to say he was presumed dead. Death had claimed so many at the Battle of the Ebro. In the concentration camp at San Pedro de Cardeña, outside Franco's capital of Burgos, was the student son of a miners' union official, Maurian Morgan.
I failed to recognize any single person there. Everyone had his hair shaved right off, presumably to prevent the lice living in them. But it took me probably half an hour or so to pick out all my former friends. And there we were to stay for nearly a year. This monastery was built in 1610. It had then been the palace of the Cid in Spain. Later it became a monastery and finally a concentration camp. It had 3 main floors, and we were on the 2 upper ones, something like 500, I think, international brigaders. And then in addition, there were 4,000 Spanish prisoners as well on the other side. The conditions there were frankly appalling. First of all, we'd been switched very, very quickly from the hottest part in Spain to one of the coldest parts on the high plateau. And the temperature one Christmas was below 0. The building had walls about 3 foot thick, intensely cold. The windows had no glass to them. And our only clothing was a shirt, thin trousers, and Spanish slippers, alpargates.
I was put in a corridor. There were no rooms for you. They were all full up. I was given about 17 centimeters of space on the floor with 1 blanket. It was a concrete floor. And then everybody was sitting up killing lice. And I found within a couple of days I was covered in lice.
They'd jump up on their hands, as it were, and wriggle their legs in the air, and then you could actually see your own blood going in through their mouths and forming little blob inside their transparent bodies. Then when you picked them off your body unconsciously, or for that matter unconsciously from somebody else's body, you just squeeze them in your hand, and by the time you'd had a half an hour chat, your hands would be all bloody. And this habit became so ingrained in people that if you're talking to somebody and you saw a louse walking on his body, you simply move out, take the louse and squash in your hands. And the habit became so ingrained that when subsequently I was back here in Wales, I was in a bus one day, and the man in front of me, I thought, had a louse at the back of his head. And I went to pick it off with my fingers, but realized just in time it wasn't a louse, but simply a mole.
There was only 1 tap for 250 people and 1 toilet. So there was a perpetual queue day and night to get to the facilities. And, but the lice were commandeering everybody's bodies. And if someone was ill, in addition to being what they call, well, the lice seemed to multiply, and even the blanket they had over them was going up and down with the number of lice, the weight of lice, as it were, underneath and on top.
Some people, I think, were driven mad by them. I remember one man particularly. He had visions every night of masses of battalions of lice in army formation being led by their outriders and commanders approaching him to attack. And he was so tormented by them that he was determined to capture every single louse in the building, and he kept them in a bottle. Later on he did become mad, if he wasn't mad at that moment. And the worst part about the lice is this, that because we had no washing facilities, no soap provided, our bodies became filthy. And the lice then would bite, and every bite would become infected.
There was a hospital for 10 people, but everybody that went in, they came out dead. It was that kind of prison. And beatings were the order of the day for the least offence. You were just beaten up. And any major offence, you didn't come back at all. We never knew where they got to.
This card bears the name of one who disappeared in jail. The Communist Party sent greetings to its men at the front. They all signed it, including Jack Roberts, Jack Rusher, who remembers his mate, ex-mountain fighter, Tommy Boyo Picton.
From the very first contact with Tommy, I felt that if Tommy was unlucky enough to be captured, he'd never come back alive, because he was not one of those fellas that would accept others giving him orders. And apparently that's what happened. He got shot, he was captured, and shot as a prisoner.
The Republican government, for which Tom Jones had fought, believed him dead and issued this certificate to confirm it. As far as the fascists were concerned, the sooner the certificate turned out to be true, the better.
I was taken for trial on January the 2nd, 1939, and I was charged with having come to Spain to kill Spaniards. I told them exactly why I came to Spain to fight. I didn't cover anything up. I told them which fronts I'd been on and so on. So they estimated that as I'd survived so long that I possibly would have killed a lot of Spaniards, you see. And I had to reply to that, of course, and say I didn't come to Spain to kill Spaniards. If any Spaniards were killed as a result of anything I did, well, they had weapons like I did and possibly could do more of a damage. And I said, I've got the evidence on my arm and on my legs. They didn't like the trend of my answers. And the prosecution asked for death sentence, and the defending counsel asked for 30 years imprisonment. And I turned to him and said, you're no friend of mine, because after you've been in those prisons for 12 months, if you're not a physical wreck, you soon would be, because more than 10% of the prison population was suffering from skin diseases and TB.
For breakfast, we had what is called garlic soup, which consisted of lukewarm water, breadcrumbs flavored with garlic, no food quality in it. Then for lunch, we'd have every day a ladleful of lentils, followed by 2 very salty sardines, and 1 small loaf of bread weighing about, say, 3 or 4 ounces. The same meal would be repeated then about 7 o'clock in the evening, and that was our last meal.
And how did Tom Jones feel as he heard himself being sentenced to death?
I was too hungry to care, and when I was given the sentence, it didn't bother me in the least. I was looking at the clock, hoping I'd be back before 6 o'clock so I could get the evening cup of soup. Because if you missed anything, you were terribly hungry anyway. And hunger was a tremendous factor in the prison. But it was lovely to go to sleep. I had wonderful dreams of feasts, the marvelous dreams. I don't know where they came from, kind of thing. But when I went to sleep, it was the happiest time in my life. I remember in one occasion I married my cousin, and the wedding ceremony took place in Rose at Bethlehem Chapel at the in the vestry there, and it held 250. I remembered all these figures in my dreams. And the wedding breakfast was laid out, and I could see the jellies and blancmange and everybody. And all the people I knew were all there. And I thought I'll wait for them all to go out after the breakfast is finished, because they're bound to leave some of the jelly and blancmange over, and they did. And there I was, going around all these dishes with jelly and eating away there. And then you'd wake up to the unhappy reality.